we're going to be looking at how to export animations and poses from Blender without the use of Avastar. A lot of people struggle with this, and there is a little trick to it to make it work. So I'm using Blender 2.79B. This should work for all of the Blender 2.7 series. I've yet to test it in 2.8, but we'll come back to that later. I don't have Avastar installed, so just to prove that, um, user preferences. Let me bring this screen across. There we go. Although I do have it on my computer, there's Avastar. Let me uninstall it. Avastar, okay. Avastar Bento is uninstalled. Right, so save user settings. Okay, so the file I'm going to be using for this to get the armature or the rig is actually a free download from the Avastar makers, and it's called the Avatar Workbench. You can get it from here, blog.machinima.org/avatar-workbench. And the file I'll be using is the Workbench 2.7 or 271 blend. Okay. Now there is some interesting points on here. It's worth a read. The file's been separated out into layers, etc. But one thing it does say somewhere is you should always use the female skeleton. So that's what we'll be doing. So if I come back to Blender, and actually if I pull up my splash screen, I've already had this file open, so it's in my recent history, and the file looks like this. Okay, so I'll be using this rig to do the animation, or to make the animation. Alright, a bit of cleanup here. Let's just close some of these. Actually, I won't. I'm going to change this directly to the animation workspace. Okay, so here we have the rig and the animation. Now, as we've seen from the file, it's been separated out into a lot of layers. I'm interested in layer 1 and layer 11. Layer 1 is the body mesh, layer 11 is the armature. Okay, so if I come back to Blender, all I'll do is, there's 1 and 11, is I will shift select all the other layers with something on, select all, and delete. Okay, so I think I missed that one. Okay, so if I come back to layer 1, I've got my body mesh, and if I come back to layer 11, I deleted something I shouldn't have. Let me control Z backwards. Right. So if I delete that one, let's go into object mode. If I delete that one, that one's deleting that as well. Okay. So let me select the rest of these, apart from those two. Okay. So I'm interested in layer 1 and 11. I don't know what layer 12 is. Actually, let's check it out. The same armature. Okay, so it's obviously linked. Right. Okay, well that's fine. So, what I'm going to do is just create a very simple animation. Now I'm not an animator, so don't expect anything fancy from me, because you're not going to get it. Okay, so I'm in frame 1. I'm just going to go to a front view. I'm going to select my armature, and I'm going to go into pose mode. Okay, and I think what I'll do is I'll do right arm down, left leg up, so that way when I test it in Second Life, I will know that it's working correctly, because I'll know the right side of the body and the left side of the body and what it should be doing. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to select the pelvis bone. With the Avatar workbench, there is no center of gravity bone like there is with Avastar. The first bone in the hierarchy will be this M pelvis bone. We see it here. Okay, so layer 1, M pelvis selected. I'm going to keyframe and I'm going to lock the location. Or keyframe the location. Alright. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the right arm and I'm going to keyframe the rotation. Okay, so in frame 1 it'll remember the rotation of this bone, which is kind of straight out. Okay, I'm now going to do the same with the left hip left, it's called. I'd call that thigh, but there you go. And I'm going to keyframe the rotation. Right, I'm now going to move to layer 50. Okay, I'm going to set my end frame to 50 as well, because I'm just doing a quick test animation. Okay, so with the timeline set on frame 50, I'm going to rotate this bone down to the side, and I'm going to keyframe that rotation. I'm going to select this left hip or thigh. I'm going to go to side view, and I'm going to rotate it straight out. And once again, I'm going to keyframe that rotation. Okay. So now if I play my animation, you see as the right arm comes down, the left leg goes out. And that is exactly what I was looking for, so that's fine. Right. This is layer number 11. I'm just going to concentrate on the rig now. Okay. So I've got that, and if I go back into object mode, that should play as it did before. Perfect. Okay, now the temptation here is to export to BBH. Okay, I'm going to do this on my desktop. And we can try this. When I was researching this, and there's not an awful lot of information on this, but everyone says to check the root transition only. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to call it test, and we'll export that to BBH to my desktop. Okay, right, so from here we're going to jump into Second Life and have a look at what's happening. Okay, so we're here in Second Life. So let's go ahead and upload this animation, or go through the process of uploading, and see what happens. Okay, so I had it on my desktop, and it was a test BBH, and we'll open. Alright, I'm going to loop this and play it, and we can see something is clearly wrong. Let me kind of zoom in here a bit. Okay, instead of the right arm coming down and the left leg going out, the right arm is twisting, as is the left leg. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother uploading this. Something is clearly wrong. So let's cancel that, and let's jump back into Blender and see if we can figure this out. Okay, so we're back in Blender, and the animation plays correctly here, but not in Second Life. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come across to layer 10, and I'm going to import my animation back in. So import motion capture BBH and the test BBH. Okay, and you can see something is clearly different here. The armature is rotated. So if we have a look at that, it seems to be rotated 90 degrees along the X. Now I did research this a little bit, and it's actually a bit more complex than that. What needs to happen, let me delete this because we know it's wrong, and that was just a BBH. What needs to happen is this armature needs to be rotated where Z axis is forward, the way the eyes are pointing and the toes, and Y axis is up. We can see the Y positive from the widget down here. Y positive is going this way. Okay, so what we need to do is select this armature, and we need to rotate it so it's lying flat in its back, so the Y or the forward rather will be Z forward. So let's R on the Y, and we'll do 90 degrees minus. Okay, now we also need the top of the armature to be pointing to Y forward, so we need to rotate it on a Z. So R, Z or Z, 90, and again minus. Okay, so you can see what I mean here, where we got Z axis pointing forward and Y axis pointing up. Okay, if we open up the properties panel, we can see that our rotations are wrong, so we need to apply these rotations. So Control A, apply rotation, which resets these values to 0. Okay, if we play the animation, it will still work. Right arm coming down, left leg coming up. Okay, so we can go ahead and try exporting this again. So File, Export, Motion Capture BBH, make sure the root translation only is checked, and I'm going to give this a new name, Test1, so I'm just going to increment the file name here, and export. Right, before I jump back into Second Life, I'm just going to check that the armature comes back in the same way as we set it here. So again, I'm going to go to layer 10, and I'm going to import that armature. So the Motion Capture BBH and my Test1. Okay, now you see that the armature is in fact kind of the right way up. Okay, and this is the rotation that was in our file initially. Actually, if I open another Blender here, I'm just waiting for this to load up, bring this across, and I open this Avatar 2.71 file, we can see that it's pointing X forward. Alright, let me close that down. This is actually pointing Y negative, which is kind of strange and it all gets very confusing. However, let's jump back into Second Life. So we're back in Second Life. We can go ahead and try this animation again, which was Test1 BBH. Okay, once again I'm going to loop it, I'm going to set priority to 4, and I'm going to play it in world and see how it looks. Okay, so now we can see that the right arm is falling down as the left leg is raising, exactly how it was in Blender. So I think we can call that success. I'm not going to go and upload it because I've no use for this animation, but we can see it's doing what it's supposed to. Okay, so we'll jump back into Blender. Okay, so we're back in Blender. I'm on my layer 11 with my Test1 import. I know it works in Second Life, so I can go ahead and delete that. If I come back to my original armature, it's probably not going to match up with the mesh now. It's not, but it'll give us an idea of which way we need to turn things. Okay, I'm not interested in the mesh. The mesh is already made and rigged. I'm only interested in the animation. Okay, so this does indeed work, even though it looks like it's lying flat in its back. This is the orientation we need to be for Second Life. We need Z forward, the eyes are pointing forward, pointing towards Z positive, and we need Y up, so Y positive points towards the top of the armature, and this works for exporting BVH from Blender to Second Life.